You know how when you're 13, being home alone feels like winning the lottery? That was me, L. Parents gone for the weekend, pizza ordered, and a 6-hour horror movie marathon lined up. It was perfect until the front door practically got ripped off its hinges. Not a polite doorbell ring, a three-fist, rapid-fire bang bang bang. I was already halfway down the stairs when I saw him through the peephole. It was the delivery guy, but something was immediately wrong. He wasn't holding a pizza box, he was holding a clipboard, and he looked furious. His face was all shadow under the brim of a baseball cap, the driver, and he was rocking back and forth on his heels like he was ready to bolt. I cracked the door, chains still on. "I didn't order from you," I said, confused. My pizza was from Gino's, not whatever company this guy was. He shoved the clipboard into the gap. "Doesn't matter. Special delivery. Signature required. I'm already late. Sign. Now." I told him I wasn't allowed to sign for anything and that my parents weren't home. That was a mistake. He lowered his voice, and it was suddenly the slick, oily sound that made my skin crawl. "Look, kid. I'm not leaving until this is signed. Just a scribble right here. No big deal. Just needs to be done." He tapped a spot on the form. It was a blank line next to the word occupant. I felt the panic start to twist in my stomach. I knew what I should have done, shut the door and walked away. But he was so aggressive, so demanding, I just felt frozen. I grabbed the pen and scribbled my initial, L, a tiny, shaky mark on the white line. He snatched the clipboard back so fast, he scraped my hand. He didn't even look at the signature. His eyes were scanning the empty driveway, the dark windows, everything behind me. He gave me this awful, thin smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Finally. Have a good night, little L." Then he was gone, jogging to a beat-up white van that wasn't marked with any company logo, and speeding off. I slammed the door and locked all 3 deadbolts, my heart hammering against my ribs. I hadn't realized that the clipboard wasn't a record of a delivery. It was a survey. A final, confirmed piece of data. My actual pizza showed up 20 minutes later, friendly driver, big smile, real pizza box. I ate it in the living room, trying to convince myself the first guy was just having a terrible night. But the thought of him, the way he looked past me into the house, and the way he said little L kept gnawing at me. By 9 p.m., the house felt enormous and silent. I was supposed to be watching a movie, but I was pacing. I checked the front door locks 3 times. I checked the garage door. Finally, I went to the sliding glass door in the den that opens onto the back deck. I always hated that door. It's huge and lets in too much of the dark. I made sure the bar lock was in place, but as I stood there, staring out into the dense, black backyard, I noticed something. The small wicker patio chair my mom used to read in was gone. It usually sat right next to the railing. That was weird. Maybe the wind blew it? But it was heavy. Then I saw it. It wasn't gone. It had been moved. It was now sitting directly underneath the large, dark den window, tucked against the wall. It was a makeshift step stool. My blood turned to ice water. That wicker chair had been moved while I was inside eating pizza. While the real delivery driver was here. While I was feeling safe. I didn't scream. I didn't even breathe. I just backed away slowly, never taking my eyes off the glass, realizing that the aggressive signature was just the confirmation call. The signal that the target was isolated and the front was secure. He wasn't coming in through the front. He was waiting for the back. I sprinted upstairs, heart trying to claw its way out of my chest. I locked myself in my parents' bedroom, just like I was always taught, and immediately called my mom. She answered, annoyed. They were at a dinner party hours away. I told her about the chair. I told her about the delivery man. The silence on the other end of the line was worse than any scream. She tried to calm me down, but halfway through her sentence, the phone battery died. Dead. Right then. The room went completely quiet, except for the frantic pulsing in my own ears. I held the dead phone like a lifeline. I was alone, locked in, and cut off. Then, from somewhere downstairs, I heard it. A small, almost imperceptible sound of wood scraping against wood. The back door. The sliding door. It was being slowly pulled open in millimeter increments. I pressed my back against the wall, paralyzed by the sound, which seemed to travel through the floorboards right into my spine. Then, a whisper. It was coming from right outside the bedroom door. It was a low, guttural voice, the driver, and it said my initial. L. I need you to sign for this last piece of work. It wasn't loud. It was soft. It was a predatory whisper that was meant to be heard. It meant he was no longer at the back door. He was inside the house, and he knew exactly where I was. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I just listened to the sound of the doorknob slowly, painstakingly turning, as he waited for me to make a sound. The turning stopped. He hadn't forced it. He was listening, savoring the silence. I realized I wasn't just in my parents' bedroom, I was in the closet. The large, walk-in closet they had. It was too late to get to the phone in the master bathroom, but I didn't need a phone. I just needed one more layer of defense. I moved slower than I've ever moved in my life. Every tiny movement of my oversized hoodie felt like a thunderclap. I crept toward the closet door, slipped inside, and pulled the door shut. It was completely dark. I could smell my mom's perfume and old cedar. I pressed my back against the farthest wall. Then I heard him again. This time, right outside the closet door. It wasn't a whisper. It was a low, dry chuckle. You know, little L, most people run outside. You're clever. You hide. But you forget the attic access. My parents' room had a pull-down hatch for the attic, right above the center of the bed. It had always been just a dusty hole to me. But now, I could hear it. A faint scratching sound, like nails on plaster, coming from the ceiling. He hadn't come up the stairs. He must have used that wicker chair to climb through the den window and then used the closet rod or the dresser to get up into the attic, moving through the ceiling space above the whole house. He wasn't trying to open the bedroom door, he was cutting me off. The scratching stopped. Then, the latch of the attic door snapped open directly above me. Dust and insulation rained down onto the carpet. But I was already moving. When I was small, my dad had shown me a secret: the only lock on the closet door wasn't the latch. It was a small, almost invisible bolt recessed into the top of the door frame, used to keep the doors tightly sealed when storing seasonal clothes. I reached up, my hand shaking so violently I almost missed it, and slid the rusty metal bolt home. The closet door was now secured. Immediately, I heard a heavy thump directly on the roof of the closet, followed by a grunt of surprise. He was standing on the attic floor, looking down, expecting to drop into an empty room, only to find the closet door was closed. He started kicking at the ceiling, right above the bolt, trying to stomp through the thin wood. The plaster cracked and dust flew. The kicking stopped just as suddenly as it had started. The silence was heavier this time, thick with cold, frustrated rage. I heard nothing for what felt like an hour, just the sound of my own ragged breath. Then, faint sirens. They were far away, but they were definitely coming closer. He heard them too. I heard the sound of the attic latch being pulled shut, then muffled scrambling above me, receding back across the length of the house. The sirens grew louder, their red and blue lights flashing against the walls outside. I stayed in the dark closet, body rigid, until I heard the downstairs window being carefully slid shut, followed by the distant sound of the van engine roaring to life and speeding away just as the police car pulled into the driveway. When the police officers found me, I was still huddled against the wall, shaking uncontrollably, still holding the dead phone. They had to talk to me for a long time, but I kept repeating the same two things: I signed it, and he knew the house. My parents came home, frantic and terrified. The police found the missing back door bar lock smashed on the deck and the attic hatch slightly ajar. They found nothing else. No fingerprints, no one matching the description. But when the officer asked me what the man had said to me through the door, I didn't tell him about the whisper. I told him what the driver had said when he left. Finally. Have a good night, little L. And I absolutely knew, that the clipboard wasn't just a survey of the house. It was the delivery ticket for a future event. And he was just delayed. You know how some nights just feel too quiet? Like the air itself is holding its breath? That was tonight. Mom and Dad had gone out, leaving me, Anya, in charge of my little brother, Leo. He's 7, obsessed with his stuffed giraffe, and generally just a disaster magnet. I was 15, and all I cared about was watching bad reality TV. We had just settled in when we heard it, a soft thud outside the front door, followed by a frantic, familiar bark. Bingo! Our golden retriever, the escape artist, had somehow slipped his collar again. Leo immediately started crying, asking if Bingo was going to find his way home. I told him, chill, he never goes far. But then the doorbell rings. I look through the peephole. Standing there is a man, late 30s maybe, wearing a baseball cap and holding Bingo's bright red leash. Bingo is sitting right next to him, panting happily. Relief hit me so hard I almost cried, too. The guy looked totally normal, just some good Samaritan. I quickly unlocked the deadbolt and pulled the heavy door open, giving him my best stressed-out teenager smile. "Oh my gosh, thank you!" I blurted out, pulling Bingo inside. "He's a nightmare." The man grinned, a little too wide, like he was trying to look friendly. "No problem at all. He was just sniffing around the corner of the block. I saw the tag, figured you lived close." He handed me the leash. His eyes, though, weren't on me or the dog. They were darting past my shoulder, fast and sharp. I mean, they were scanning. He wasn't looking at the ceiling or the floor, he was clocking everything: the size of the entryway, the big screen TV visible in the living room, the staircase, and the fact that Leo had just appeared behind me, clinging to my leg and looking tiny. "Your parents home?" the man asked. His tone was casual, but the question felt like a brick hitting glass. I felt my heart sink. My mom's voice echoed in my head, "Never tell anyone you're alone." No, I said, stumbling over the lie. "They're in the back. Working in the office." The man just nodded slowly, his eyes fixing on the light coming from the second-floor window. He knew I was lying. He knew we were kids, and he knew we were alone. He thanked me for nothing, gave a little wave, and walked off the porch, but he didn't rush. He walked like he owned the street. I slammed the door, bolted the deadbolt, and flipped the chain lock. "Leo," I whispered, pulling him away. "Upstairs. Now." I told him it was a game, the quiet game, and the winner was the one who hid the best. I called my mom, frantic. "Mom, the dog got out and some guy brought him back, but he kept looking inside, and he asked if you were home." I explained how his eyes moved like he was measuring the place. Mom stayed calm, bless her. She told me to lock myself and Leo in the master bedroom closet and call her back in 5 minutes after she had talked to Dad. 5 minutes later, we were huddled in the closet, Bingo, who was now a liability, whimpering nervously outside the door. Leo was shaking. I called Mom back. She was crying now, whispering. "The security cameras, they caught him. He stood there for almost a full minute after you closed the door, just looking at the house. He wasn't a neighbor, Anya. He was scouting." We waited. 10 minutes passed. 20. The house was silent except for our breathing. I felt like I was in a horror movie, and the villain was waiting for the end credits to roll before making his move. Then I heard it. Not a doorbell. Not a knock. It was the faintest snick sound, coming from the back of the house. A window latch. It was just after midnight. The streets were quiet. He hadn't just found our dog, he used our missing dog to get me, a scared kid, to open the door and show him the easy targets. He was back. Mom was still on the line, but I couldn't speak. I held my breath, listening. The snick was followed by another tiny sound, a soft thump on the carpet. He was inside. I didn't cry or scream, I just pulled Leo closer, covering his mouth gently with my hands so he wouldn't make a sound. Then came the footsteps. Slow. Heavy. They were down the hall, checking rooms. One set of steps, moving like he was hunting. My mom, hearing my ragged breathing on the line, screamed into the phone, "Anya, the police are there. Do not move. They're in the backyard." I heard the muffled screech of car tires outside, a flash of red and blue light blinking through the gap under the closet door. The footsteps suddenly stopped right outside our door. Dead silence. He must have heard the sirens, too. It felt like forever, just the two of us waiting for the door handle to turn. Then, a huge crash from the kitchen downstairs, the sound of the back door being kicked in, but not by him. The police were in. I heard shouting, heavy boots, and the sound of someone running outside. After a few minutes, a loud, clear voice yelled, "Police! We're coming up. Anya, are you in there?" I unlocked the closet door, pulled Leo out, and saw 2 officers standing in the master bedroom doorway. The man was gone. He used the noise of the police entering to bolt out the front and escape into the quiet night. He was an opportunist. And he knew exactly where we lived now.